Okay, hello. Today is Friday, and we want to answer some questions about a specific topic some fans have asked for, which is why are we vegan, or why do we live a vegan lifestyle? And so we picked some questions. We're going to try to do this quick, and it's important for us to talk about this as well. That's why we picked this topic. And so, Gab, I'm going to ask the questions, and Gab will answer. We pretty much think the same way anyway. So, Gab, why are we vegan? Why are you vegan?
Well, first of all, hello everybody. I hope you're fine and well at home. The first question, why are we vegan? Well, personally, I was born into a family that I was vegetarian, so I have never eaten any flesh or any shrimp or lobsters or any of that, any of animal or anything with eyes. And I was vegetarian, so I ate dairy and eggs. And then I think 10 or 11 years ago, I switched to vegan. And my reason, and Rod's reason, is because of the animals. So then that was my first idea. First was I didn't know what vegan was. And we were in Ireland, and then I heard, I had a friend, he knew a guy, he shared a flat with a vegan guy, and I didn't know what it was, but he looked scary, and he was always angry at people and angry at vegetarians, so I felt like not super happy to ask him, because I felt like, oh, he looked like scary, so, but then eventually, I think in Dublin City was this small group of punk guys, and they were just giving these flyers about all the animal testing and all of those things. And among those flyers also was a flyer talking about the dairy industry and animal, all of that, the egg industry. And that's what I went like, whoa. So we switched to vegan like this.
Yes. I wasn't born into a vegetarian family, but I turned vegan the same, like 11 years ago. And I think I was like for a few months vegetarian, although I tried many times before. And I did stop eating red meat when I was a kid, but I kept eating a little bit of fish and chicken for years. And eventually, when we were able to see all this information, thanks to YouTube and all these things that suddenly were there, it was easier for me and for Gab and for many people. Actually, that was a turning point. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so how does veganism relate to climate change?
Well, all industry of food industry will have an impact on the environment. Absolutely everything, even tomatoes that you produce at home, or even cucumbers. And the way I see it is like, it's in your plate, that is in your hands, and if you use this plate as a symbol of your values, then to me was like I start asking questions about even where these tomatoes come from, or where these cucumbers come from, because it's not just the environmental impacts, but also the social impacts that you might have. Especially like if you know that these tomatoes, you don't even know who how do you say, grow them for you, and probably there were little kids exposed to pesticides, so we don't know where food comes from nowadays in this massive industry of food industry. So, and I think the way I see it, Rod sees is a way to minimize all of that impact, all the social impact too, and also the moral impacts and implication of killing and eating animals. And personally, I can't justify it morally, and that's why I think, and in my life. I switched to eat like this, and also to share all of this information to people that is open to hear it and to switch. So if anybody wants to ask me more questions, I'll be happy to, maybe in another platform, I'll be happy to share all of the whole vegan enchilada with you.
Where do we get, well, this is a very popular question, but easy to answer. And where do we vegans get the protein from?
Well, proteins are in every single foods. Like, you have a small amounts of proteins in different tomatoes and
Vegetables,
and grains and all of that. So that protein is not a problem for vegans, as long as you are a person. Forget about vegan. If you're a person that is willing to learn a little bit about nutrition and how to balance your foods. And I think if vegans or not vegans, sometimes we simply don't care. And I remember when I was 20 or when I was 16 or 18, I didn't care at all. I was cheesivorous and breadivorous, and also chocolate-ivorous and beer-ivorous, and alcohol-ivorous that I loved. So I didn't really care. The good thing is I've always been very healthy all my life, but now when we started touring like 270 gigs a year, that's where I felt the lack of nutrition in the vegetarian diet that I had. So that's how I started to feel tired, and it was just also because it's a tiring thing to do, to play so many gigs a year and being on the go, but only drinking beer and bread, it was not a good thing to do. So then I started to kind of going more into what my mom told us, to me and my sister, to eat a lot of veggies and fresh veggies and some fresh vegetable juices and all that. So I started to do all of those things, including those things. And then I didn't exclude the alcohol. I believe that more inclusive mentality is better than excluding things. So if you are trying to change and just become more healthy, I think that's a healthier approach in your mind, to include more fruits and veggies, instead of saying, oh, I'm going to exclude all these bad foods, you know. So that's the way I did it, and it was a long process in all of that, but it worked.
And as well, when I get asked that question, always I have like an automatic answer to that, which is, where do you think animals get the protein from, right? Which is a basic answer. So just they take it from plants and all that, so we just get rid of the middleman.
Well, yeah, and also I would say that usually we think that certain, like, let's say, animals have in their tissues these proteins and all of these things, but as Rod says, they are getting provided from all of these nutrients from plant sources. And it's a whole story here, so we maybe we'll do in another time.
So quickly, let's try to do this, because there are a few questions, and deep questions, but let's try to do a short answer, right? Is the life of any animal more important to you than the life of any human being? Of course not.
Well, that depends on you, you know, like, think about a person that it does very bad things to people, you know. So that we're gonna go into the world of ethics.
Yeah.
But the question is, when I reframe the question, is the life of an animal more important than 5 minutes of pleasure of eating it? That would be the question. So for a lot of people that love animals, and they want to be vegan, they want to switch, but they can't, because cultural thing, because they love this type of food, that's the question. It's like if the whole entire life of this animal is worth just 5 minutes of what I'm eating right now, this taco, and that's a question, you know. So because the other question, it just goes to this world of ethics and exactly.
Yeah. But we can talk about it as well sometime. This is a very common question, but it's important. Where do vegans get the B12 from? You know, because that's a big thing about the B12.
Well, I guess most of the population in the world, we get B12s from synthetic vitamins. The way a lot of people get it, but not all of them, is through eating animals and in their products like dairy and eggs, because those animals, especially factory farms animals, they all eating a diet that is they put B12 in their food.
Can you explain quick for those who don't know where do actually animals get the B12 from? Like in the past, like in nature. Yeah.
In nature, we used to, as a species, everybody got the B12 in the water or in the soil when we had rich soil. That it was, I think B12 calls for bacteria 12. So it was a healthy bacteria that existed all around the planet. So nowadays, unfortunately, we don't have that planet that we used to have. And by the way, I can put all the things that I read, and I've seen a lot of documentaries and stuff like this, and I can share with you if you want to know more about it and provide all the links. Please don't believe anything I say, just do your own research, or probably just your own, I guess, form your own criteria and your own opinion. And it's good, happy to receive all the questions, because I think it's better to question things than just to say no or yes, you know? So
yes, and this is we are just answering some questions that some of you are asking or have been asking for months.
So but the original questions, where did you get the
we're not here, sorry.
Where did you get B12? So we got it, I buy a vitamin supplement.
Yeah. So the vegan supplements, B12 supplements, right? And you don't take it. I don't take it every day or all the time.
And what is also true,
it's
like a lot of people, like a family member of mine, he loves meat, eats a lot of meat, but recently he was diagnosed with lack of B12. So sometimes, for some reason, people can't absorb it, and it's a lot of people that can't really absorb it, even if they eat a lot of animals and a lot of cheese and stuff like this. So it's good that you do your blood test and just see maybe.
I regularly do the blood test once a year, and I don't take B12 every day. I take it for season, like sometimes I do take it 3-4 times a week for, let's say, for a couple months. Then sometimes I do it for a month and all that, and always my B12 is perfect. So
yeah, me too. Yeah.
Anyway, haven't we evolved to eat meat?
Well, there's a very good book called Sapiens, that is a history of the Homo sapiens, and it's incredibly fun to read. It's almost like a film, and it just tells the story of sapiens. In terms of evolutionary terms, we are very, very young species. We've just been here. Evolutionary terms, we are here 2 minutes to 12. That young is our species. So in this book, it tells how from caveman and all of this first type of human beings as we are, we evolved to eat a lot of things. We had to adapt to whatever it was available, and it was a lot of eating whatever you find. If you find like a tree full of figs, you would eat as much as possible, because before the monkeys came in, or before the lions came in, whatever it was, and maybe lions not, maybe it was another type of animal.
Huge lion.
But essentially, we also ate carcasses, and we also ate other people. And so we ate a lot of things in order to survive. And it's this theme about if we eat meat, that's exactly how the brain evolved, is very controversial. There's a lot of other people, paleontologists and other specialists, that have other theories and that have investigated, and new studies that are coming in all the time. So that's why it's so important to kind of see how important it is to read and to see everything, and to be, at the end of the day, to have your own call. And some of the things that are very relevant right now is to say we are not in the caveman era. We are here, at least here in Zihuatanejo, Mexico. We have big supermarkets, 2 or 3 supermarkets full of foods and full of choices. We are not living those times. So even if we evolved from eating meat, I think nowadays we can choose what we want to eat, and that's a blessing. And so that's what I think.
Surely that's not for 100% of population in the world, but where we live, and probably where you are watching this from, you have the chance to choose for sure. And
what a guy told me the other day, we live in a fisherman's town, and here the tradition of going fish is very important. It's part of the culture here. So this guy was telling me, like, he came to his dad for fishing, and they love this moment together, and go and the ocean, and be quiet in the ocean, and they got all of this fish. And then he said they came back home and put all the fish on the fridge, and they stayed there for days. They didn't eat it at all. They just keep it in the fridge. And he told me, like, that it was such a waste. And they went to the butcher shop and buy meat to make tacos. And they didn't want, his sisters didn't want to eat this fish. Because it was in the fridge, and it was no longer fresh, and because they didn't like that type of fish. And that's the story of Homo sapiens. We are like this, you know. So I think sometimes we have so many choices and so many things, and I think it is important to learn that lesson.
Okay. Isn't it expensive to be vegan?
Well, yes and not. It's exactly like if you eat normal diet, conventional diet, where you can be very fancy and you can be very proletarian, you know. So you can be naturally and historically, or plant-based foods have been the people's foods, you know. Kings and people who own the land and all of those were the guys who owned the land and the cattle. And historically, always meat has been a luxury, along with wine. So all the other people, poor people, ate oats and all of those foods. And so historically, it's cheaper to eat plant-based foods. But nowadays, of course, we have a lot of fancy vegan stuff, and very gourmet, and well, we vegans try to cover all the wide range of possibilities. So you can be super gourmet, or you can be very like young vegan, or whatever it is. But we always encourage people to try it, because sometimes we don't want to try, and it's good. You know, sometimes the food is super good, and you might love it, and you're missing that one. So we try to cover all the classes, I guess.
Okay. What would happen to all the animals if we stop eating them?
Well, what happens here is that there is a, how you say, demanda y oferta? There is a supply and offer and supply. So the less we consume those foods, the less they were being produced, the less inseminations, because we create those animals as a species. We domesticated animals and plants for us. So that's how we stopped being nomadic Homo sapiens to a settled sapiens, and we stayed in little villages and stuff so we can store wheat and all of these other plants. But also we took all these wild animals and make them our own. And when we start this insemination process that we created, it's not, nature didn't create those species of animals. So all of these cows, chickens, goats, and all of these animals we exploit for our use is because we actually inseminate them, and that's the part where it goes. It has a tremendous impact on the environment too. So, and the way we say it is that. What was the original question? I just went.
Yeah. So what would happen with all the animals? If we stop eating them?
So the less demand, the less supply, and this change can happen gradually. And I think a lot of these industries, they can transform. I think the way we see it, and a lot of people we see it, we aim for a planet that is pristine and is beautiful. We can regenerate it ourselves with our choices. But by any means, we would like to attack farmers or other industries. We believe we can all create, transform all of those businesses. And I think it is important to also have compassion for the animals as much for the people.
What's the difference between eating vegan and a vegan lifestyle?
Well, I guess, I don't know all of those terms. I guess vegan lifestyle is when you 100% avoid exploiting animals. For example, if you don't use, personally, I don't use any medicines. Like I don't.
Been tested, or well, in any.
Any medicine or shampoo or the toothpaste or
creams, like makeup stuff, or like that's accessories, like anything like wallets, belts,
boots. Or shoes, like that come from animals. That's what we're the ones who. We don't need to participate in that. So we don't do that. The good luck for me and Rodrigo is that we're very healthy, so we don't need to eat, like, we hardly have a headache or any of these things. And sometimes what I said to a lot of vegan friends and activists, and they're young vegans, and they love what we call in Mexico frito vegano, all these tostadas and tacos and all this vegan. It's super yummy, but it's not super healthy. And sometimes they just point a finger and they go, "Oh, you're too healthy." But I said, I love to be healthy and not to take any medicine that it was tested on animals, because that's a huge motivation for me. But of course, I think it is important to keep that in mind.
Yes, and some vegans like that want to follow a vegan lifestyle and stop using stuff that they bought before. I mean, you have two options. For example, I still use shoes, or trainers or whatever that I bought before in the past with leather, but I don't buy them anymore. If I had them from the past, no. And through the years, because many years I've been vegan, and that was the last thing that I left from any kind of animal product. You can do the same, or you can donate those things to second-hand shops, and you can do that. So there are many, and if you want to wear it. But the good thing is that now you don't buy it, and that's a good thing. So isn't vegetable farms as bad as the other ones for the environment?
I guess every single food would have a different level of impact, and there's great links that has been recently posted from different governments, and you can calculate your footprint through the food you are consuming. But it's true, there's a lot of every single thing that you grow, especially if it's industrial, is gonna have a tremendous impact on the planet. Like we were talking about green tea. I love green tea, and I love this oolong tea. And this woman was an expert, said, "Oh, don't buy that type of green tea because it's
the highest grade oolong, which is high in the mountain."
High in the mountain, and also high in price because it's quite pricey.
Yeah.
But it's really good.
It's really good, tastes really good, but to be there high in the mountain, it doesn't happen naturally. They had to
clear all the forest,
yeah.
and also pineapples and all of the fruits and all of the vegetables would also have a great impact because you use water, you used fuel, you have to clear a lot of the forest in order to put them there. So what is important to keep in mind, and for me, at least for me, the way I see it is anything you do will have an impact. There's no other way around it. We were born into this world that it was already upside down. So the best thing we can do is try to grow our own vegetables and try to grow our own food and consume as locally as you can possibly do. There is not like a right answer to it or one solution to everything. But I think what is not acceptable is not to do anything. I think pick one battle. If you decided, okay, I'm not gonna use, I'm gonna avoid taking, I don't know, straws. Let's start with that, and I'm gonna be there clapping for you here because that's something that you choose. Just one thing, start with that, and
educate yourself. That's the most important.
Yeah.
Right. And the last.
But I forgot. So, but comparing all those fruit, vegetables, and all of those things, comparing all that impact on the environment to the animal sources of food, and the environment is very, like, if you think we contaminate a lot with producing fruits and vegetables and seeds and all that, these animals eat a lot of grains that are not used to,
more than double
to
the
feed
damage.
people. These grains would feed trillions upon trillions upon trillions of animals that we consume as foods. So that has to have a bigger impact on the environment, and it's also an ethical issue because all of these resources might be better if we send them to the places most vulnerable on earth where little kids have nothing to eat, full families have nothing to eat. So at the moment, the population of the planet is mostly animals that we consume as food. So all the biomass, if you weigh it, there will be more of the farm animals and less of the wild animals, which is like tiny, and then us as species. I think the farm animals are the biggest weight of all. Then we go humanity with their 7 billion weight of full humanity, and then at the end we have a tiny fraction of only penguins, dolphins, all of those wild animals together. We have taken so much space for these animals to exist. So and so that's the answer to the environment is just like at the end of the day, even all those pineapples and all cucumbers, all of those things, they do have an impact, but also all the farm animals that we consume.
Last question, quick answer. What do you eat every day?
I eat
kind of. Yeah.
I eat a lot of local-based foods, and now we have this crazy moringa, a lot of moringa, and a lot of crazy fruit called guanabana, which is it would be Mexican one, I don't know, but it's just big and it's very yummy. And so my sister made recipes. She has created a full cuisine out of all the local foods that normally people here would not eat them as crazy because they're kind of bored to see them. They grow in the trees everywhere. But my sister, she's very good at creating great recipes. So she made this great yogurt out of this banana fruit that is white and it's very creamy and it's I've been having that for breakfast with some cereal and then also the moringa with fruit juice. So you mix the moringa with that, and then what else? And a lot of grains, like white rice, these big fucking.
Do you do many meals a day?
I do 2 meals a day in the morning and in the afternoon. Then Rod has a restaurant that they have really good tacos, and all the corn is organic. So they make they're tiny though. Don't think of big tacos, tiny tacos, and then but they're very yummy. And so we do a lot of different Mexican dishes. I can share a lot of recipes with you if you want to, and then to see what we eat. Like this, me and my sister, we created this 21 days challenge for you to do with all the recipes and all the steps. It's in Spanish, but I can share it with you.
Yeah, we leave the link there in the description, and you can just check it out. What do I eat? I try to do intermittent fast every day. So I don't eat anything before 12 hours of my last meal. So sometimes it's 12 hours, sometimes it's 16. And then when I break my fasting of the day, I open with normal probably coconut yogurt or oats, overnight oats with maca, cacao, lean seeds or flax seeds, whatever you call them.
We have this guy that goes at the hotels with this bread. He's German and he makes this really cool bread. So that's like a toasted bread with
almonds or peanut butter or almond butter, and then massive smoothie as well with kale, tons of kale, which we have here local produces, and it's organic and it's incredible.
Cocoa beans.
Yeah, cocoa beans, and then I eat a lot of bowls. I have my favorite is one that I mix tofu, organic tofu. Like kind of with curcuma and turmeric, and some kind of scrambled eggs flavor, kind of. And then I add protein with beans, black beans, and then I add avocado and loads of cilantro, and everything is mixed in there, and chile and organic tortillas. I eat that bowl pretty often. Sometimes I eat sweet potato every.
He eats a lot, so we can
every day. Sweet potatoes are great for you. Anyway, ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
See you next time.
Y también, y como eso,